Nate Pearson was once the top prospect in the Toronto Blue Jays organization, but injuries have made it so that he would never fulfill the lofty expectations set by an entire fan base. We'll break down the rise, fall, and potential redemption of Nate Pearson on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Got a lot to get into today. First off, Happy New Year once again. Thank you all for the support this past year. It's been unbelievable. Hopefully we could keep it going in 2023, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, no reason. And it's close to 6K subscribers. Again, we're over halfway there. So hit the subscribe button if you enjoy the video. And we're going to have more content like this, different kinds of stuff, because offseason's a bit dead right now. So we're going to be doing lots of prospect reviews. And this is a bit of a story to tell from on Nate Pearson. So let's just get right into the beginning, which is the rise. And I'll start here, and then Peter, I'll get your thoughts on what happened to him and what he was supposed to be. So I'll pop up a screenshot here. This is from, obviously, Nate Pearson was a very highly touted prospect. 2019, you can look at the prospect rankings, and in hindsight, our top four of these prospects, well, the top three all panned out very well. So this kind of goes to show the Blue Jays farm system. And Nate Pearson was fourth in 2019 prospect rankings, surging through the system all the way up to number 1 in 2020. And you can look at his grades: 80 fastball, 60 slider, 55 curveball, 50 changeup, 45 control. He was a top prospect for the Blue Jays in 2020, the number 1 prospect in the Jays organization. And then it all seemed to kind of fall apart.
Yeah, he was supposed to be what Alek Manoah is right now, and he was touted much higher than Alek Manoah was as a prospect, and he was supposed to be the first one to come up and make an impact at the major league level. Obviously, he's been very unlucky with injuries, but he hasn't panned out. We saw some flashes when he was with the Blue Jays in 2020 in the shortened season. He looked very good in the wild card series against the Tampa Bay Rays, and that was kind of like a preview into the future for Jays fans. It's like, wow, can we really expect this guy to make this kind of an impact for the Toronto Blue Jays going forward? And I certainly thought so. I mean, it looked like he would be a bright spot in the Jays rotation for a while, and he would really help get them out of that retool period that they were in, but it just never happened. He got very unlucky these past couple of seasons with injuries, freak injuries too, like a hernia, and he had mono last season, so he didn't get to pitch until towards the end of the minor league year. And by that point, it's too late for him to make an impact at the major league level. So hopefully he can get some confidence under his belt in spring training and crack the Jays bullpen on opening day.
Yeah, completely agree. When you look at his stats, you can kind of see, it goes to show the rise a little bit more. Obviously, 2017, 8 games, 0.9 ERA. We'll skip over 2018, we'll hit 1 game. 2019 was the big year for him. 25 games, 2.3 ERA. Obviously struggled a bit at AAA in 2021, and then in Buffalo continued to be solid, but there were some concerns for him coming into the league. But we figured, and like you said, we saw some flashes, and that was kind of one of the bright spots in the at the end of the 2020 COVID season when we got swept by Tampa Bay. Is we saw him go crazy, and I have a video here just of what he looked like in his not his, I guess his prime, I can't really say his prime, but he was painting, and this is what he's capable of. Just really solid. I'll throw another one up here, which is this same thing, but it's 99 painted. He has all of his pitches working, and this right here, 101 on the edge. This is what we had to look forward to before all the inevitable injuries, did happen. And I don't know, it's sad to see. And I have another screenshot to pop up here. Look at this. And Peter, you sent me this from 2022. Consider laying money down on Nate Pearson for AL Rookie of the Year. Basically, a writer shares his MLB futures where he's taking the Toronto Blues to win the World Series. But also Nate Pearson in particular, where he's taking a gamble. And that wasn't just him who thought this. This was in 2020. Blue Jays, Nate Pearson could be the difference in a playoff push. That was in the COVID-shortened year. And looking at all these articles, and there's tons more. We just included a couple. Everyone believed in Nate Pearson. MLB Pipeline believed in Nate Pearson. And just goes to show sometimes, with the rise does come a fall. And we'll get into the fall in a minute, but the rise was there, and he had tons of unbelievable amounts of hype.
Well, he's shown flashes of that potential that got Blue Jay fans so excited over the years, him coming up through the minor leagues. Now, he's 26 years old now. It seems like just yesterday he was this 22-year-old kid knocking at the door of the major league level. And it's unfortunate, but I think the ship has sailed on him being a starter at the major league level. and of him being dominant at the major league level. But if he can be a valuable piece in that bullpen, similar to what Aaron Sanchez was for the Toronto Blue Jays a couple of years back in those playoff runs, then I think you take it at this point. Not everyone pans out, and you see it in Moneyball, in the movie Moneyball. Not everyone pans out, and that's why I've always been on the train of trading prospects for these reliable players at the major league level. But at the same time, they could pan out and they could become special, like Alek Manoah, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., like Bo Bichette. So you just never know with prospects. It's a gamble, just like anything is at the major league level. So I'm excited to see what he can do going forward. I'm keeping the expectations low, but I've always liked Nate Pearson as a pitcher, and potential wise, I mean, there's still something there.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute about what's next. Because also, there's still tons of potential there. Quickly though, let's touch on the major. What your thoughts are, obviously, for the reason behind the fall of Nate Pearson. Now, obviously, the injuries are the main thing, but he did have a pretty devastating, I guess, fall in the sense of what he was hyped up to be. But he's Nate Pearson eager to feel like himself again after hernia surgery, and I can't believe Nate Pearson couldn't manage to throw one pitch in the majors last season. Now, obviously the injuries, but do you think there was anything, with his pitches itself that was a cause for concern that led to his ultimate fall from as of right now at least?
I think it's a confidence issue at the end of the day for Nate Pearson. I mean, he was always highly touted as a prospect. Maybe that got to his head. Some guys are just not built for that. And I'll use Alek Manoah as an example here. I think he's built for that pressure. And there's those memes rolling around. Their pressure is something that you put in your tires. I think he got a little flustered in that wild card game there, Alek Manoah did, but you could tell he's a guy that relishes the pressure and really loves the big moment. I don't know if Nate Pearson is that guy. He seems to be a little bit more laid back, and maybe it just got to him. It was too much to handle, and obviously the unfortunate injuries that he dealt with over the course of his career that also contributes to your confidence level. If you can't stay on the field, and then once you do get on the field, everyone's rushing you along and not really letting you develop and letting you come into your own, then that plays a part in it. And I think the walks too, like you just see, I think his development was a little bit rushed because the Jays wanted him to be that guy at the major league level, and he just isn't. But I don't think the dream is over for Nate Pearson. I think he can still be a good major leaguer. He could be a late bloomer.
Yeah, and I agree, and I'll get into that as well. But I agree, and I think confidence is the big thing. Obviously, different people can handle it differently. Alek Manoah came up and just dominated, like you said, but Nate Pearson, on the other hand, you could kind of tell. Obviously, he had a couple good starts to start his career, but he was never really fully dominant to the point where we thought. Obviously, the tools were there, but his confidence lacked. He lost. I remember very vividly over his first few starts. I was so excited to watch, and he was really wild and sporadic, just throughout most of the starts. And it happened in the minors
Yeah.
too, and that was a major concern. And I think most of that was in his head and nerves, which ultimately led to the major fall of Pearson. But now let's just get into the end, which is what's next for Nate Pearson. You touched it already a little bit. I think, like you said, I don't think they try him again with starting pitching. I think the best case scenario now is an elite reliever, which is still in the realm of possibility, and that's what this year is going to be because he should be fairly healthy, hopefully, and maybe give him some low leverage situations in games where we're blowing people out, and then go from there because he has the tools to be an elite reliever that we need, a flamethrower.
Yeah, I agree. And Nick, can you just pop up his minor league stats for me one more time? Yeah, so if you guys look at that, 2019, 101 innings, 27 walks. 2021 in AAA Buffalo, 30 innings, 13 walks. So
Yeah.
obviously you don't see 2020 there because he was with the Toronto Blue Jays in 2020 and he came up a little bit later. But 13 walks in 30 innings, it's quite a bit. And there has to have been something that changed in his delivery and just his confidence level overall to have contributed to that. So I don't know. I'm hoping that he could figure it out. He was a little wild, like you said, at the major league level, but the tools are there. And if he can stay healthy and get a little bit of a rhythm going, as opposed to pitching a couple innings and then going on the injured list, then it'll help him out a ton in his development. And there's time. There's time. He's not expected to be a huge contributor for the Toronto Blue Jays right now, but if he turns out to be that in 2023, then bullpen's in real good shape.
Yeah, and maybe they internally, I wonder how much that is into effect regarding if they're going to trade for someone this offseason. Who knows? But I agree. He has everything. Maybe the pressure, maybe having less pressure now. Obviously, our team, we're ready to win now. And that was a bit different than when he got originally called up in 2020. We weren't fully going for it then. But
Hmm.
hopefully, and he has the tools, like you said, to turn into a very elite bullpen player at this point. If not, if anything, just hopefully he gets some shot in the MLB because, I kind of feel bad for him a little bit. I think the pressure got to him. I think that was kind of the main story of the downfall here because he was number one prospect in 2020, and not everyone's able to pan out. But do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up this interesting video?
It's just like super random what he's dealt with over his
Yeah,
career. Like dealing with mono at the beginning of the season. Like I don't even want to begin to speculate how he got that or how he contracted that. But it's like, of course that happens to Nate Pearson. Like why would it be anything less random than getting mono at the beginning of a season and not being able to pitch until the Dominican Winter League? So that's the kind of luck that he's been dealt so far in his baseball career. And it's not all on him. He's been unlucky. Hopefully, now he knows that he doesn't have to do as much and he doesn't have to prove as much. Well, we'll see. Time will tell.
yeah, and hopefully the pressure. If that was the reason, obviously there's a bunch of reasons, like you said, unluckiness, and hopefully he'll be able to bounce back. And we'll make a video in the future about his, I guess, his new rise to the rise to the major league levels instead of the rise in the minor leagues. But that'll wrap up the video. Hope you enjoyed this one. It's a bit of a different style. We're probably gonna have more like this over the coming weeks because off season's a bit slow right now, and hopefully the Jays make another move. But either way, thank you guys for the support, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.